I was standing in my own kitchen, wooden spoon still in my hand, when my son Derek screamed words that made my heart stop. "Don't you dare argue with my wife in her house!" The world tilted sideways. My husband Frank and I built this house 32 years ago. We chose every nail, every board, every window together. Behind Derek, his wife Brittany stood with her arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won the lottery. That's when I knew. My son had just declared war on me in the home I built with my own 2 hands. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set down the spoon before I dropped it. Derek's face was red, veins bulging in his neck like they might burst right through his skin. I'd seen him angry before, but never like this. Never at me, and certainly never in defense of someone trying to erase me from my own life. "Derek," I managed to whisper, my voice catching in my throat. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." His voice was cold, distant, like I was a stranger he'd caught trespassing. "Stop attacking Brittany. She's trying to make a home for our family, and all you do is criticize." I tried to find my son in those angry eyes, but he wasn't there anymore. The little boy I'd raised alone after Frank's accident at the construction site, the teenager I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college, the young man who used to call me his hero, gone. Replaced by this hostile stranger. Let me back up. 6 months ago, I was rattling around in this big house all alone. Frank had been gone 3 years, and the silence was crushing me. Then Derek called with news that changed everything. Brittany was 7 months pregnant with my first grandchild. They were struggling financially in their cramped apartment. Could they move in temporarily, just until the baby came and they got back on their feet? I said yes before he even finished asking. I was thrilled. Lonely nights would be filled with laughter again. I'd get to be there for every moment of my grandchild's early days. 3, maybe 4 months, Derek said. They just needed a little help. I gave them the master bedroom suite because it was bigger, more comfortable for a pregnant woman. I moved my things into the smaller guest room without complaint. After all, it was temporary. I could sacrifice a little comfort for my family. Brittany started redecorating the day after they moved in. I came home from my part-time job at the library to find my curtains gone, replaced with stark white ones I'd never seen before. Family photos that had hung in the hallway for decades were stacked in a box in the garage. The warm beige walls Frank and I had chosen were suddenly a cold gray. When I gently mentioned that I'd preferred the old curtains, Brittany burst into tears. "I'm just trying to nest," she sobbed. "The pregnancy books say it's natural. Don't you want me to feel comfortable?" Derek rushed to her side, glaring at me. "Mom, she's nesting. It's a biological instinct. Can't you be supportive?" I bit my tongue. "For the baby's sake," I told myself. "For family harmony." Then Madison arrived, and she was perfect. 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, my granddaughter. I fell in love the moment I held her. Those first few weeks were beautiful, exhausting chaos. I helped with midnight feedings, changed diapers, did mountains of laundry. I didn't mind. This was what family did. But Brittany's changes to the house didn't stop. She criticized how I cooked. "That's too much salt. That's not organic. We don't eat that in MY home." How I cleaned. "You missed a spot. That's not how I do things." How I did laundry. "You're folding the towels wrong." "My home." She kept saying my home. The first time, I corrected her gently. "Actually, sweetie, this is my home. But I'm happy to share it with you." Her face hardened like concrete. Within minutes, she was in the bedroom crying to Derek about how mean I was being. Derek came out and lectured me. "She's a new mother, Mom. She's hormonal and exhausted. You need to be more understanding." So I stayed quiet. For Madison. Always for Madison. The morning everything exploded started innocently enough. I went into the living room to dust and found all of Frank's fishing trophies boxed up. 30 years of memories, awards from tournaments we'd traveled to together, carefully wrapped in newspaper and shoved in the garage. The box was labeled in Brittany's handwriting. "Junk, donate." My chest tightened. Those weren't junk. They were pieces of my husband, memories of our life together. Weekend trips to the lake. Frank's proud smile when he won first place in the base tournament. The way he'd polish those trophies every spring. I found Brittany in the nursery, rocking Madison. Brittany, I said calmly, though my heart was pounding. I found Frank's trophies in the garage. Those are precious to me. They need to stay in the living room. She didn't even look up. They're dusty old trophies cluttering up my living room. They make the space look cheap. I'm trying to create an Instagram-worthy home. Brittany, I need you to understand something. I kept my voice level. This is my house. Frank and I built it together. Those trophies represent our life. They stay. Her eyes narrowed. Derek, she screamed. Derek, come here right now. Your mother is attacking me again. I heard the front door slam. Derek had taken a half day off work. He stormed into the nursery, still in his work clothes. What's going on? Your mother is being completely unreasonable, Brittany said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I'm just trying to make our home nice, and she's throwing a tantrum over some old junk. They're not junk, I said firmly. They're your father's trophies. Mom, Derek's voice was a warning. We've talked about this. You need to stop living in the past. Dad's been gone for 3 years. It's time to move forward. That's when I said it. The words that lit the fuse. Derek, this is my house. Mine and your father's. Not Brittany's. Mine. And that's when he screamed it. When he told me not to argue with his wife in her house. In my own kitchen. In the home I'd built. I was being told I didn't belong. The silence after his words was deafening. Brittany's smirk grew wider. She pulled out her phone, tapped something, then showed Derek the screen. They whispered to each other while I stood there, frozen. When Derek looked up, his expression had changed, from anger to something worse. Cold calculation. Mom, Brittany and I have been talking. We think it's time you moved into a senior living facility. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Brittany's voice was sugary sweet, the way you'd talk to a confused child. We found a lovely place. They have bingo on Thursdays, arts and crafts. You'd make so many friends your own age. We'll handle selling the house, Derek continued, as if this were already decided. You're getting too old to maintain it anyway. The stairs are dangerous. The yard's too much work. It's for your own good. I stared at them, understanding flooding through me like ice water. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't about an argument over trophies. They'd been planning this, plotting to take my house, my home, everything Frank and I had built together. No, I said quietly. Mom, be reasonable. This is my house. My voice grew stronger. I'm not going anywhere. Derek actually laughed. It was bitter, mean. Mom, be realistic. You can't afford this place on your own. I've been affording it just fine for 3 years since your father died. Brittany jumped in. We pay rent. We contribute. I looked at her directly. You have never paid me a single dollar. The argument exploded. Voices rising, accusations flying. Then Derek said the words that made my blood run cold. If you don't cooperate, we'll have to take legal action. Legal action? I repeated. For what? Brittany's smirk returned. Elder abuse. Neglect. Creating an unsafe environment for Madison. We have documentation. We've been taking notes. Derek nodded. You're clearly not mentally stable if you can't see reason. We're just trying to help you, and you're acting paranoid. They were going to try to have me declared incompetent. Take control of my assets, my home, my life. My own son was threatening to destroy me. I looked at Derek and saw a stranger. This man who stood in my kitchen, threatening me, using my granddaughter as leverage. Where was the boy I'd raised? The child I'd sacrificed everything for? I'd worked double shifts at the diner and the hospital laundry so he could have new shoes, could go on school trips, could go to college debt-free. I'd given him everything, and this was how he repaid me. Something hardened inside me. A mama bear waking up after a long hibernation. Frank used to say I was too soft, too giving. Terry, he'd tell me, you gotta stand up for yourself sometimes. I'd brushed him off. But Frank was right. I need some air, I said quietly. I'm going for a drive. Derek crossed his arms. Fine. We'll start packing your things while you're gone. Make this easier for everyone, Brittany added. Don't worry. We'll be gentle with your old lady stuff. She actually laughed. I grabbed my purse and car keys with shaking hands. As I walked toward the door, I heard Brittany's voice behind me, giggling. Finally. I thought she'd never leave. Did you see her face? I drove straight to my friend Carol's house 3 blocks away. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. Carol opened her door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. Terry, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. The story poured out of me. Every word Derek had said, every threat, the plan to put me in a nursing home and steal my house. Carol's face went from shocked to furious. That's not just wrong, Terry. That might be illegal. She grabbed her phone. My husband Bill worked construction for 40 years. He knows every locksmith in this county. We're getting your locks changed right now. Carol, I can't. That's my son. That's not your son talking. That's a man who's being manipulated, or worse, who's chosen greed over his own mother. Either way, you protect yourself first. Ask questions later. Bill made 3 phone calls and found a locksmith who could come immediately. He's 20 minutes away. Let's go. We drove back to my house in Carol's car. Derek's truck was gone from the driveway. Probably went to rent a moving truck, I thought bitterly, planning to pack up my life while I was gone. The locksmith arrived in 15 minutes. A quiet man named Joe who didn't ask questions. He got to work immediately. Front door, back door, garage door opener, even the side gate that led to the backyard. 45 minutes later, I had new locks on everything and a fresh set of keys. You want me to install a deadbolt on any interior doors? Joe asked. The master bedroom, I said. My old bedroom, where Derek and Brittany were sleeping in my bed. $850 later, my house was secure. Every penny worth it. After Joe left and Carol went home, promising to come back in an hour, I stood in my house alone. Really alone for the first time in 6 months. The quiet was shocking. No baby crying, no Brittany criticizing, no Derek making excuses. I needed to document everything. I grabbed my phone and started taking pictures. The gray walls Brittany had painted without asking. The space where family photos used to hang. The boxes in the garage filled with my belongings, labeled for donation. Evidence. Then I went into the master bedroom. My bedroom. I opened Brittany's closet, looking for anything that might help my case. That's when I found it. Hidden under a pile of Brittany's sweaters was a folder. Inside were photocopies of my financial documents, my bank statements going back 6 months, my property deed, a printout of senior living facilities with costs circled in red ink, notes in Brittany's handwriting, memory care unit, easier to control and sell house quickly, cash buyers. My hands started shaking again. But there was more. At the bottom of the folder was a drafted power of attorney document with my signature, except I'd never signed it. The signature was close, but not quite right. They'd practiced forging my name. They'd been planning this for months, maybe since before they even moved in. This wasn't about temporary help. This was a con. They intended to have me declared incompetent, take power of attorney, control my assets, sell my house, and put me away somewhere I couldn't fight back. I photographed every single page with shaking hands. Then I hid the folder in my own bedroom, the small guest room I'd been sleeping in. That's when I heard it. Derek's truck pulling into the driveway. I heard his key in the front door lock. The scraping sound as it failed to turn. Silence. Then he tried again. What the hell? His voice outside, confused. I locked myself in my bedroom and waited. The pounding started. Fists on the front door, then the doorbell ringing over and over. Derek shouting, "Mom, open this door right now!" Brittany's voice joined his, shrill and angry. "You can't lock us out. Our baby's things are in there. This is illegal." I stayed silent. Let them yell. The pounding got louder. I heard Derek trying the windows. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was outside watering her garden. She'd stopped to watch the scene, hose in hand. Finally, I went to the front door. Didn't open it, just spoke through it. This is my house. You need to leave. You've lost your mind. Derek was really screaming now. This is insane. Let us in or I'm breaking down this door. I found the forged power of attorney. Derek. Silence. Complete, total silence. Then Brittany's voice, panicked and high-pitched. I don't know what she's talking about. She's making things up. She's senile. Mom. Derek's voice was different now. Careful. We can explain that. It's not what you think. Just open the door and we'll talk about this like adults. Get off my property or I'm calling the police. You wouldn't dare. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911 while they could hear me through the door. Told the dispatcher calmly that I had people refusing to leave my property, trespassing, harassing me. Gave my address. They're really going to arrest your own son? Brittany shouted. What kind of mother are you? The kind who's done being a victim, I thought. Derek and Brittany didn't leave. They camped out on my front porch. Brittany pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. Within minutes, I could see her posting on social media through my window. She was filming herself crying, holding Madison, talking about elderly abuse, how I'd locked them out with their baby, how I was mentally unstable, how they were worried about me but I was being violent and irrational. My phone started buzzing with notifications, people commenting on her post, sympathetic messages flooding in. She was painting herself as the victim and me as the villain. 2 police officers arrived 30 minutes later. I watched from the window as Derek rushed to meet them, Brittany right behind him with Madison crying in her arms. I took a deep breath and opened the front door. Ma'am, are you Terry? One officer asked. Yes, this is my home. I'm the sole owner. Derek jumped in. She's my mother. She's having some kind of mental episode. She locked us out of our house. We live here. Our baby's things are inside. The officer looked at me. Ma'am, do they live here? They moved in 6 months ago temporarily. I asked them to leave today. This is my property. I have the deed. I showed them the property deed, printed clearly with my name only. Then I showed them something I'd found in that folder. Derek and Brittany's lease for their apartment, still active. They'd never canceled it. Never officially changed their address. They'd kept their apartment as a backup plan. The officer's expression changed. He turned to Derek. Sir, do you have any documentation showing you're a legal resident of this property? Derek sputtered. It's my mother's house. I'm her son. I don't need documentation. Actually, sir, you do. This is private property. The owner is asking you to leave. If you don't have a lease or rental agreement, you need to vacate the property. Brittany exploded. This is ridiculous. Our things are in there. Our baby's clothes, her crib, everything. The second officer spoke up. Ma'am, you can file a civil claim to retrieve your belongings during a supervised visit. But right now, you need to leave the property. Derek's face turned purple. He started yelling at the officers about incompetence, about elder abuse, about how they were protecting a crazy old woman. The officer's hand moved to his belt, near his handcuffs. Sir, you need to calm down right now, or I'll arrest you for disorderly conduct. That finally shut Derek up, but Brittany kept screaming about how I was keeping their belongings hostage, how I was a terrible grandmother, how I was going to regret this. The officers escorted them off my property. Derek's truck tires squealed as he peeled out of my driveway. Brittany was still screaming out the window. Ma'am, the first officer said gently, you might want to consider getting a restraining order if this continues, and document everything. Take photos, save messages, keep records. I will. Thank you. After they left, I sat on my couch in my house. My house. The silence was broken by my phone ringing, and ringing, and ringing. Derek's friends, my relatives, people I hadn't talked to in years, all calling to tell me I was cruel, heartless. How could I do this to my son and granddaughter? Had I seen Brittany's post? It had been shared over 200 times already. I turned off my phone. Carol came back with dinner. We sat in my kitchen, eating takeout Chinese food, not talking much. What was there to say? At 10 o'clock that night, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole, heart pounding. It wasn't Derek. It was a woman I'd never seen before. Well-dressed, around 40, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked nervous. "Mrs. Terry?" she called through the door. "My name is Amanda. I really need to talk to you about Brittany." I opened the door with the chain still on. "Who are you?" "I'm Brittany's former landlord. She owes me $12,000 and destroyed my rental property. When she skipped town, I couldn't find her. Then tonight, I saw her post on social media. I recognized your address. That's my property 2 blocks north." Amanda held up a folder thick with papers. Photos of a trashed apartment. Court documents. A judgment against Brittany that was never paid. "Can I come in? You need to see this. She's done this before. You're not the first person she's targeted." I let her in. We sat at my kitchen table for 2 hours. Amanda showed me everything. Brittany had rented from her 2 years ago, paid first month, then nothing else. When Amanda tried to evict her, Brittany claimed Amanda was harassing her, discriminating against her because she was pregnant. Filed complaints, dragged it out for months. By the time Amanda finally got her out, the place was destroyed. Holes in walls, carpet ruined, appliances stolen. Brittany disappeared before Amanda could collect the judgment, changed her phone number, deleted all social media, vanished. "I tried to warn people," Amanda said. "But she's good. She finds vulnerable targets. Older people, usually. People with assets. She moves in, gains their trust, isolates them from family, then takes control. You're not the first. I found 3 other victims while I was trying to track her down." Amanda handed me a flash drive. "Everything I have is on here. Court records, police reports, statements from her other victims. You're going to need it, because she won't stop." She never does. After Amanda left, I sat in the dark, holding that flash drive. My son had married a professional con artist, and either he knew and was helping her, or he was another victim. Either way, my life had just become a nightmare. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, going through Amanda's flash drive. The more I read, the sicker I felt. Brittany's real name was Brittany Walsh, but she'd used at least 3 other last names. Court documents showed a pattern going back 7 years. She'd targeted an elderly man in Ohio, convinced him she was his long-lost granddaughter, moved in to care for him, and nearly got him to sign over his house before his daughter intervened. She'd befriended a wealthy widow in Pennsylvania, gained her trust, then systematically drained her bank accounts. The widow ended up in a nursing home, confused and broke, while Brittany disappeared with $80,000. There were police reports, but Brittany always left before charges could stick. She was smart, careful, and now she had my son wrapped around her finger. Was Derek a victim or an accomplice? I wanted to believe my son was being manipulated, but those words he'd said, the coldness in his eyes, the way he'd threatened me. Could someone really be that thoroughly controlled? As dawn broke, I made coffee and a decision. I needed a lawyer. I called my friend Carol's recommendation, a lawyer named Harrison who'd handled her mother's estate. His secretary got me an emergency appointment for 9 that morning. Thomas Harrison was in his 60s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner. I told him everything, showed him the flash drive, the forged documents, the photographs I'd taken. His expression grew darker as he reviewed the evidence. "Mrs. Terry, this is serious. Very serious. The forged power of attorney alone is a felony. Combined with the identity theft elements, the systematic planning, we're looking at multiple criminal charges." "What about Derek? My son?" He was quiet for a moment. "That's harder. If he knew about the forgery and participated, he's criminally liable. If he was manipulated, he's a victim. But his threatening behavior toward you, the attempted eviction, that's still problematic legally. What should I do?" "Document everything. Get a restraining order if you feel unsafe. But most importantly, understand this won't blow over. If Brittany is who these documents suggest, she'll escalate. She's been exposed. Cornered animals are dangerous. I left his office with a retainer agreement signed and a sick feeling in my stomach. That afternoon, Derek showed up at the library where I worked part-time. I was shelving books in the biography section when I heard his voice, loud and angry. Where is she? Where's my mother? My supervisor tried to intervene. Sir, you need to lower your voice. This is a library. I don't care. She stole my belongings. She locked my family out of our home. I came around the corner. Derek, you need to leave. He whirled to face me. Every head in the library turned, patrons staring, my coworkers watching. Give me the keys to my house. Right now. It's not your house. We have rights. We're suing you for illegal eviction and emotional distress. Brittany is having panic attacks. Madison is suffering because of you. He threw papers at me. They scattered across the library floor. Court documents. They'd actually filed a lawsuit, claiming illegal eviction, demanding $200,000 in damages, alleging I'd verbally promised them the house as an inheritance. All lies. But I'd have to prove it in court. Derek, please leave before I call the police. You really are a horrible person, he said, his voice shaking. I hope you're happy. You destroyed your own family. He left, and I stood there surrounded by scattered legal papers and the stares of people I'd known for 20 years. My supervisor gently suggested I take the rest of the day off. I gathered the papers and drove straight to Mr. Harrison's office. He reviewed the lawsuit, his jaw tight. This is aggressive. They're trying to intimidate you, drain your resources fighting legal battles. Classic strategy. But we have the property deed, the evidence they kept their apartment lease, the forged documents. We can defend against this. How much will it cost? A few thousand, maybe more depending on how far they push it. But Terry, there's something else you need to do. Check your credit report. Now. Why? Because if she had access to your documents, your mail, your personal information for 6 months, she could have done a lot more damage than a forged power of attorney. My hands went numb. I hadn't thought of that. Mr. Harrison pulled up a credit monitoring site on his computer. We requested my credit report right there. It took 3 minutes to load. When it appeared on the screen, I stopped breathing. 3 credit cards I'd never opened. All in my name. All maxed out. Total debt, $32,000. Charges going back 4 months. Electronics, expensive baby items. Designer clothes, cash advances. Oh my God. My voice was barely a whisper. Mr. Harrison's expression was grim. This is identity theft. Federal crime. We need to file police reports immediately. We spent the next 3 hours at the police station, filing reports, providing evidence. The detective listening to my story looked disgusted. Ma'am, I see this more than you'd think. Family members are often the perpetrators because they have easy access to documents. We'll investigate, but I have to warn you, these cases can take months. I drove home in a fog. $32,000 in debt. My credit destroyed. My son suing me. My granddaughter being used as a weapon against me. When I got home, there was a letter in my mailbox. Official looking, from Adult Protective Services. Claimed an investigation had been opened into my mental competency. Someone had filed a report stating I was a danger to myself, possibly suffering from dementia or severe mental illness. I called the number on the letterhead with shaking hands. It rang and rang. No answer. I tried again. Same thing. I called Mr. Harrison in a panic. He did some quick research. Terry, that's not the real Adult Protective Services number. The letterhead is fake. It's designed to scare you, make you panic, maybe do something rash they can use against you. Psychological warfare. I sat down hard on my couch. They were trying to break me. And it was working. That night, Carol stayed over. You're not alone in this, she kept saying. We're going to fight them together. But lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Terry? A woman's voice. Frightened. This is Linda, Derek's cousin? Linda, hi. What's wrong? I need to talk to you. Can I come over? I don't want to do this on the phone. She arrived 20 minutes later, pale and shaking. Linda was a widow in her 50s, lived alone since her husband died 5 years ago. Derek and Brittany showed up at my door 3 days ago, she said. They told me you'd gone crazy, kicked them out for no reason, said they needed a place to stay while they figured things out. I let them in. Your family. And last night I woke up at 3 in the morning, heard noises, found Brittany going through my home office. She had my checkbook, my financial statements, my late husband's life insurance papers, taking photos with her phone. My stomach dropped. When I confronted her, she said she was just helping me organize, getting things in order for me since I'm alone. But Terry, her face, she looked caught, guilty. Derek came running, got so aggressive with me, defending her, yelling that I was paranoid just like you. Linda, you need to change your locks. Today, check your credit report, file a police report. That's my cousin. My family. I know. He's my son. But something's very wrong. Please, protect yourself. She left, promising to think about it. I prayed she'd listen. 2 days later, my doorbell rang at 3 in the morning. I jerked awake, heart pounding, looked out the window. 3 fire trucks. Neighbors standing in their yards. Firefighters approaching my door. I opened it, confused. What's happening? Ma'am, we got a call about a fire at this address. There's no fire. They searched anyway. Protocol. Found nothing. False alarm, ma'am. Maybe a malfunction in the system? But I didn't have an automated fire alarm connected to emergency services. The fire chief pulled me aside as they were leaving. Mrs. Terry, this is the 3rd false call we've had to your address this week. First was Monday. Someone reported a gas leak. Wednesday, a medical emergency. Tonight, a fire. If these keep happening, you could be fined for wasting emergency resources. I didn't make those calls. Ma'am, they came from your address, your phone number. After they left, I checked my phone, my landline, nothing. Then I realized someone could spoof a phone number, make it look like calls were coming from my house. Derek and Brittany were systematically destroying my credibility. False emergency calls, fake letters from adult services, social media posts painting me as unstable, building a narrative that I was losing my mind. And the scary part? It was working. Mrs. Patterson next door wouldn't make eye contact with me anymore. The postal carrier asked if I was okay. Even my pharmacist looked at me with concern and asked if I needed help. I was being erased, discredited, isolated, and my son was helping them do it. The preliminary court hearing for their illegal eviction lawsuit was in 5 days. I spent the next 2 days drowning in documents. Mr. Harrison needed everything, every bank statement, every receipt, every piece of evidence that proved Derek and Brittany were never meant to be permanent residents and had never paid a cent toward household expenses. But at night, alone in my house, I went through Amanda's flash drive again, and I made a decision. I needed to talk to Brittany's other victims myself. Amanda had included contact information for 3 people who'd agreed to share their stories. I called the first one, a woman named Patricia in Ohio. I almost gave him everything, Patricia said. She was 83, her voice thin and sad. Brittany showed up at my church. Said she was looking for her grandmother who'd given her up for adoption. Had this whole story. I felt so sorry for her. I'm alone. My kids live far away. She visited every day, brought groceries, helped around the house, became like the granddaughter I never had. What happened? 6 months in, she suggested I add her to my bank accounts. Just in case something happened to me, she said, so she could handle things. I was going to do it. Had the papers drawn up. Then my daughter came to visit unannounced. Caught Brittany photographing my financial documents. When confronted, Brittany ran. Disappeared that same day. I never saw her again. The second victim was a man named George in Pennsylvania. Similar story. Brittany had befriended his wife at a cancer support group. When his wife died, Brittany offered to help him through his grief. Moved in as a companion. Within 4 months, she'd convinced him to make her his power of attorney. She'd drained $43,000 from his accounts before his son discovered what was happening. "Did you press charges?" I asked. "Tried, but she was gone. Changed her name. My lawyers said we could chase her, but it would cost more than we'd lost, so I let it go. Biggest mistake of my life. Because she just moved on to the next victim." The third victim, Martha, was the most disturbing. Brittany had targeted her through her grandson Jacob, dated him, got pregnant, moved into Martha's house where Jacob lived. "She had me convinced my grandson was turning against me," Martha said. "She'd twist every conversation, make me look crazy or mean. By the end, Jacob was talking about having me evaluated for dementia. They wanted to sell my house and put me in a home. Thank God my daughter figured out what was happening." Every story was a variation of the same pattern. Befriend, isolate, manipulate, extract, disappear. The scary part, Martha told me, is how good she is at reading people. She finds your weak spot and exploits it. Loneliness, grief, family conflict, whatever makes you vulnerable. After those calls, I felt sick. But I also felt something else. Determination. I wasn't just another mark. I was the one who was going to stop her. The preliminary hearing arrived. Mr. Harrison met me at the courthouse. "Remember, stay calm. Don't let them provoke you. Let me do the talking." Derek and Brittany arrived with an expensive lawyer, a polished man in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Where had they gotten money for that? We sat on opposite sides of the courtroom. Derek wouldn't look at me. Brittany kept whispering to their lawyer, occasionally glancing at me with that same cold smirk. Their lawyer spoke first, painted a picture of a devoted son caring for his aging mother, how I'd invited them to move in permanently, how I'd become paranoid and unstable, how I'd locked them out without warning, keeping their possessions hostage, how their infant daughter was suffering because of my mental instability. The judge listened, expressionless. Then Mr. Harrison stood. "Your Honor, I have documentation that directly contradicts every claim made by the plaintiffs." He presented the property deed, the lease showing Derek and Brittany still had their apartment, text messages where Derek explicitly said they needed temporary help, photographs of all their belongings still neatly stored in the house, proving they weren't being kept hostage. Then he pulled out the big guns. The forged power of attorney, the credit card fraud, Amanda's testimony about Brittany's history. The judge's expression changed. He looked at Brittany with new eyes. "Miss Walsh, can you explain these documents?" Brittany's lawyer objected, said it was irrelevant to the eviction case, but the judge overruled him. "I'd like an explanation." Brittany started crying, perfect tears rolling down her perfect cheeks. "Those are all mistakes, misunderstandings. That woman Amanda is lying because I wouldn't pay her rent. She's harassing me. And the power of attorney, Terry asked me to draw it up because she was worried about her memory. She signed it herself." "Your Honor," Mr. Harrison said calmly, "we have a handwriting expert's preliminary analysis showing the signature is forged. We also have police reports filed for identity theft regarding credit cards opened in Mrs. Terry's name while Miss Walsh had access to her documents." The judge leaned back. "This case is clearly more complex than a simple eviction dispute. I'm ordering a full investigation before proceeding. All claims are on hold pending review. Both parties are to have no contact except through legal counsel." It wasn't a win, but it wasn't a loss either. Outside the courthouse, Brittany was screaming at their lawyer. Derek looked shell-shocked. As I walked past them to Mr. Harrison's car, Brittany's voice followed me. "You'll regret this. You'll never see Madison again. I'll make sure of it." That night, someone slashed my tires. All 4 of them. My security camera caught Derek's truck driving past my house around 2 in the morning, but didn't catch the actual slashing. The police filed a report. Without direct evidence, we can't make an arrest. It could have been anyone. $800 for new tires. Carol insisted I stay with her again. "You're not safe there alone." She was probably right, but I refused to be driven from my own home. The next morning, I discovered Brittany's GoFundMe. Help a homeless family with a newborn. The story claimed I'd violently kicked them out, that they were living in their car, that their baby was suffering. The page had raised $18,000 in 2 days. Comments poured in. What kind of monster does this to her own grandchild? This woman should be in jail. Someone should call Adult Protective Services. My reputation was ash. People I'd known for decades crossed the street to avoid me. My supervisor at the library gently suggested I take an extended leave, just until this blows over. The money from the GoFundMe. The expensive lawyer. They were funding their war against me with donations from strangers who believed their lies. Then Linda called. Her voice was frantic. "Terry, they're gone. Derek and Brittany. They left in the middle of the night." "What happened?" "I took your advice. Changed my locks while they were out. Checked my credit. Found $2,000 charged on a credit card I didn't open." When I confronted them, Derek got so angry. Brittany started packing immediately. Said I was just like you. Paranoid. Ungrateful. They took my late husband's watch collection, his camera equipment, just grabbed stuff and left. "Did you call the police?" "They're filing a report now. But Terry, they're gone. No one knows where they went." My blood went cold. If they disappeared, that meant they were escalating, planning something bigger. That afternoon, an official-looking letter arrived by courier. A summons. Adult Protective Services. Except this time, it was real. Someone had filed a formal complaint claiming I was a danger to myself. Alleged I was making false accusations against family members, exhibiting paranoid delusions. Needed immediate evaluation. I called Mr. Harrison. He reviewed the complaint. This was filed by their lawyer, using your own defense as evidence of mental instability. They're claiming the handwriting expert, the police reports. All of it is part of your delusion. Can they do that? They're trying. But we have evidence, real evidence. We'll fight this. The evaluation was scheduled for the next week. A social worker would interview me, review my living situation, assess my mental state. If they found me incompetent, Derek could get emergency guardianship, control over my finances, my home, my life. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, Frank's fishing trophy in front of me. The one from his last tournament, 6 months before the accident that killed him. "Frank," I whispered to the empty room. "I don't know what to do. Our son. I don't recognize him anymore." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have just left. Now everyone's going to know what you really are." Then a second text. A photo. Me. Taken through my kitchen window. Right now. Someone was outside my house, watching me. I called 911 with shaking hands. By the time police arrived, whoever it was had gone. They found footprints in my flower bed. Cigarette butts. Someone had been standing there for a while. "Mrs. Terry, you need to seriously consider staying somewhere else," the officer said. "This is escalating." But I knew if I left my house, it would be seen as abandonment. They'd use it against me. I couldn't leave. That's when I found it. While checking all my windows and doors after the police left, I found a small device attached to my landline phone connection. A recording device. They'd been listening to my phone calls. Mr. Harrison confirmed it the next morning. Illegal wiretapping. Another crime. But Terry, this means they know everything we've discussed, every plan we've made. They've been one step ahead, because they've been listening. The walls were closing in. I was fighting a war on multiple fronts. A lawsuit, identity theft, now surveillance. And somewhere out there, Derek and Brittany were planning their next move. I thought it couldn't get worse. I was wrong. The Adult Protective Services evaluation was the worst 3 hours of my life. A social worker, named Miss Chen, came to my house with a clipboard and a skeptical expression that told me she'd already read the complaint against me. "Mrs. Terry, I'm here to assess your living situation and mental state. I need you to understand this is a serious matter. Your son has expressed concern that you're not capable of living independently. She asked questions. So many questions. About my daily routine, my finances, my health, my relationships. Every answer felt like a trap. If I said I was fine, I looked like I was in denial. If I admitted to stress, I looked unstable. She toured my house, taking notes. Looked in my refrigerator, my medicine cabinet, my bedroom. I felt violated, exposed. Mrs. Terry, there are photos of you on social media that are concerning. Multiple police calls to your address, reports of erratic behavior. Your own son claims you've become paranoid and aggressive. Those are lies. I have evidence. I showed her everything. The forged documents, the credit card fraud, Amanda's testimony, police reports, Mr. Harrison's documentation. Her expression didn't change. I see you've built quite an elaborate case against your son and daughter-in-law. That level of detail, this conspiracy you've described, it does seem somewhat implausible. My heart sank. She didn't believe me. The con was working. Brittany and Derek had created such a perfect victim story that my actual evidence looked like paranoid delusions. I'll be filing my report with the court. You should hear back within 2 weeks. After she left, I sat on my couch and cried. Really cried for the first time through all of this. Because I realized I might actually lose. They might actually win. That evening, Carol found me still sitting there. She made me tea and held my hand. You can't give up. Frank wouldn't want you to give up. The next morning, I got a phone call that made everything worse. My doctor's office. Someone claiming to be me had called and requested all my medical records be sent to a law office. A law office I didn't recognize. I called immediately. I never requested that. Do not send my records anywhere. Ma'am, we already sent them. The request had all your identifying information. We thought it was legitimate. They were building a case using my own medical history against me, looking for anything. Depression, after Frank died, anxiety medication, anything they could twist to prove I was mentally unfit. Mr. Harrison filed an emergency motion to block the use of my medical records. But the damage was done. They had them. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My blood pressure spiked so high that Carol insisted on taking me to the emergency room. The ER doctor was concerned. Mrs. Terry, your blood pressure is dangerously high. You're at risk for a stroke. You need to reduce your stress immediately. I'm trying, I said weakly. They kept me for observation, ran tests. My heart was fine structurally. But the stress was literally killing me. While I was in the hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, Derek walked in. I actually jumped. How did you know I was here? I'm still listed as your emergency contact. The hospital called me. He sat down in the chair next to my bed, looking tired. Mom, this has to stop. You're making yourself sick. I'm making myself sick? The words came out sharp. Derek, you stole from me. Your wife forged my signature. You tried to steal my house. That's not true. None of that is true. Brittany made some mistakes with paperwork, yes. But she wasn't trying to hurt you. She was trying to help. And I know the credit cards look bad, but she had your permission. You don't remember because of your memory issues. I don't have memory issues. A nurse appeared at the door. Is everything okay in here? Derek stood up, playing the concerned son perfectly. I'm sorry. I'm just worried about my mother. She gets agitated easily. After he left, I asked the nurse to remove him from my emergency contact list immediately. But the visit shook me. He'd seemed so sincere, so convinced that I was the problem. Was it possible he really believed Brittany? That he was truly being manipulated? Or was he just a very good liar? The hospital released me that evening with instructions to reduce stress and follow up with my doctor. Reduce stress. Like it was that simple. Carol drove me home. We pulled into my driveway and she gasped. Terry, your door. My front door was wide open. We called the police from the car, waited until they arrived. Officers cleared the house. Ma'am, You can come in now. My house had been ransacked. Not violently, carefully, methodically. Drawers opened, papers rifled through. My computer was gone. So was the external hard drive where I'd backed up all my evidence. The folder with Brittany's documents? Gone. Amanda's flash drive? Gone. Even the copies I'd made were missing from where I'd hidden them in the linen closet. They knew exactly what to look for, I said numbly. Do you have any idea who did this? The officer asked. I knew, but I couldn't prove it. And saying it would make me sound paranoid. Mr. Harrison arrived within 30 minutes of my call. His face was grim. Tell me you have backups somewhere else. I emailed copies to myself. Cloud storage. Good. That's good. But Terry, they're getting desperate. Breaking and entering is a serious escalation. That night, I stayed at Carol's house. I had no choice. I was afraid to be in my own home. At 3 in the morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Terry? Linda's voice, panicked and crying. They came back, broke into my house, took everything, my jewelry, my electronics, even my late husband's watch, and they left me a note. It said, "This is what happens when you side with crazy people. Linda, I'm so sorry. I'm filing charges. Real charges. Burglary, theft. I don't care if Derek's family. This ends now." But the police told Linda the same thing they told me. Without direct evidence, without catching them in the act, it was hard to prove. And Derek and Brittany seemed to have vanished. The next day, 3 fire trucks showed up at my house again. Another false alarm. The fire chief was angry. "Mrs. Terry, these false calls are a serious offense. We're considering filing charges for misuse of emergency services." I didn't call them. Someone's spoofing my number. But I could see in his eyes that he didn't believe me. I was the crazy old lady who cried fire. Then came the email. From Adult Protective Services. Miss Chen's report. I opened it with shaking hands. Subject displays signs of paranoid ideation. Has constructed elaborate conspiracy theories regarding family members. While some documentation was provided, the level of detail and complexity suggests possible cognitive decline or delusional disorder. Subject's health is deteriorating due to stress of her own making. Recommend psychological evaluation and consideration of supported living arrangements. They were going to take my house, my freedom, my life. Mr. Harrison read the report and swore, "This is based on nothing, but we're going to have to fight it. Get you evaluated by our own psychiatrist. Build a counter case." How long will that take? Weeks. Maybe months. The hearing for Derek's guardianship petition was in 5 days. That night, Carol made me dinner. Tried to cheer me up. But I couldn't eat. Couldn't think straight. My doorbell rang at Carol's house around 9. A delivery. A package addressed to me. Inside was a photo album. My photo album. The one that had been in my house. All the pictures of Derek growing up. His baby photos. First day of school. High school graduation. His wedding to Brittany. Every single photo had my face scratched out. Just my face. Violently. The message was clear. At the bottom of the box was a note in Brittany's handwriting. "You're already gone. Just accept it." I threw up. Actually threw up into Carol's kitchen sink. Because I realized they weren't just trying to take my house anymore. They were trying to erase me completely. And they were winning. The next morning, Mr. Harrison called with news. "Terry, I found them. Derek and Brittany. They're in a hotel downtown, and I had a private investigator follow them. You need to see this." He sent me a video. Brittany and Derek at an expensive restaurant. Laughing, drinking champagne, showing off a new designer purse, living well on the GoFundMe money. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was seeing Derek, my son, smiling, happy, without a trace of the stress or concern he'd shown at the hospital. He wasn't a victim. He was a willing participant. My son, the little boy I'd raised, was helping destroy me, and he was enjoying it. The guardianship hearing was in 2 days, and I was falling apart. I couldn't sleep, could barely eat. My hands shook constantly. Carol was so worried she took time off work to stay with me. Mr. Harrison brought in his own psychiatrist to evaluate me. Dr. Melissa Rodriguez spent 4 hours with me, asking questions, running tests, reviewing my entire history. Mrs. Terry, you're under tremendous stress. Yes. You're anxious, which is completely appropriate given the circumstances. But you're not delusional. You're not cognitively impaired. You're a woman being systematically victimized and gaslit. That's very different from mental instability. Her report was submitted to the court, but would it be enough? The morning before the hearing, Linda called. Terry, something happened. Something big. What? Derek and Brittany tried to con someone else. An elderly man they met at a coffee shop. They didn't know he was a retired police detective. When Brittany tried her sob story about being homeless, he recognized her from a warning bulletin, called his old colleagues. They're watching them now. My heart started pounding. What does that mean? It means if they slip up, if they try anything, the police are ready. That afternoon, Mr. Harrison called. Terry, I need you to do something, and I know it's going to be hard. What? I need you to post on social media that you're willing to reconcile. That you've been thinking about Derek's future and you want to give him the house after all. That you want to meet at my office to sign papers. You want me to lie? I want you to bait a trap. They've been listening to your calls, reading your emails. They think they're ahead of us. Let's give them what they want. Let them think they won. It felt wrong. But I was desperate. I made the post that evening. Simple, heartfelt. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Derek, you're my son. I love you. I don't want to fight anymore. I've spoken with my lawyer about signing the house over to you. Can we meet tomorrow at his office? I want to make this right. Derek responded within 45 minutes. Mom, I'm so relieved. Yes, we'll be there. 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock, I confirmed. That night, I barely slept. This was it. Everything came down to tomorrow. Carol drove me to Mr. Harrison's office. We arrived early. Mr. Harrison was already there with 2 people I didn't recognize. A detective from the fraud division and an FBI agent. FBI? I asked. The credit card fraud crossed state lines. Makes it federal. And once we started digging into Brittany's background, we found outstanding warrants. She's wanted in 3 states. At 2 o'clock exactly, Derek and Brittany walked in. They looked good, dressed nicely. Brittany was carrying Madison, using my granddaughter like a shield. Derek was smiling, actually smiling. Mom, he said warmly, I'm so glad you came to your senses. Mr. Harrison stood up. Mr. Derek, Miss Brittany, please come into the conference room. They walked in confidently, sat down across from me. I kept my face neutral, even though my heart was hammering. Then Mr. Harrison opened the door wider. The detective and FBI agent walked in. Derek's face went white. Brittany tried to stand up, but the detective moved to block the door. Derek Walsh and Brittany Walsh, you're under arrest. The detective started reading them their rights. Brittany started screaming. This is a setup. You can't do this. We have rights. The FBI agent was calm. Miss Walsh, you're wanted for wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, and elder abuse in 5 states. We've been tracking you for 2 years. Derek didn't do anything, Brittany shrieked. He's innocent. He didn't know. But the detective pulled out documentation. Mr. Derek, we have evidence you actively participated in forging your mother's signature. You helped file false police reports. You assisted in stealing from your cousin Linda. You're complicit. Derek turned to me, tears streaming down his face. Mom, please. I didn't know it would go this far. Brittany said we were just protecting you, that you needed help. Please, tell them I didn't mean to hurt you. I sat there, looking at my son. My baby. The child I'd sacrificed everything for. And I didn't recognize him. I'm sorry, Derek, I said quietly. But you made your choice. The handcuffs clicked, closed around his wrists, around Brittany's wrists. She was having a complete meltdown, screaming about her rights, about her baby, about how this was all my fault. A social worker appeared to take Madison. Brittany screamed louder. "You can't take my baby! This is kidnapping!" "Ma'am, the child will be placed in temporary protective custody pending investigation," the social worker said calmly. They led Derek and Brittany out in handcuffs. Other lawyers in the building stopped to stare. I watched my son being arrested, and something inside me broke. Even though I knew this was necessary, even though I knew they'd tried to destroy me, he was still my son. As they reached the door, Brittany turned back to me, her face twisted with rage. "You'll never see your granddaughter again. Never. I'll make sure of it." Then they were gone. I sat in that conference room with Mr. Harrison and started crying, deep, wrenching sobs. For my son, for the family I'd lost, for the betrayal, for everything. "You did the right thing," Mr. Harrison said gently. "They would have destroyed you completely." "I know," I whispered. "But it doesn't feel right. It feels like I just lost everything." Carol drove me home. To my house. My real home. We sat in the driveway for a long time before I could make myself go inside. The house felt different, emptier. Even though I'd won, even though I'd protected myself, it felt like losing. That night, lying in my bed, I wondered if I'd ever feel whole again. The legal process dragged on for 3 months. Derek pleaded guilty to reduced charges: forgery, filing false reports, theft from Linda. The prosecutor offered him 2 years probation instead of jail time if he cooperated fully and agreed to restitution. He took the deal. Part of it meant he had to repay me the stolen money, $50 per month for the next 15 years. It would never cover what he took, but it was something. He also had to attend counseling, deal with whatever had made him vulnerable to Brittany's manipulation in the first place. Brittany refused to plead guilty. Insisted she'd done nothing wrong, that she was the victim. Her trial lasted 2 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Testimony from me, from Amanda, from Patricia and George and Martha, from Linda, documents, recorded phone calls, bank records. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all federal charges: wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, elder abuse. 6 years in federal prison. I attended the sentencing. I needed to see it through. Needed to watch justice happen. Brittany screamed at the judge, called me every name imaginable, insisted she'd been trying to help me, that I was crazy, that Derek was innocent. The judge was unmoved. As they led her away, she looked at me one last time. No more smirking, no more manipulation, just rage and defeat. I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no relief, just empty. The hardest part was processing everything, understanding how my son had gotten so lost. Carol suggested I see a therapist, and for once I didn't argue. Dr. Patricia Lee helped me understand that I hadn't failed as a mother, that manipulation is powerful, that some people are just vulnerable to it, that Derek had made his own choices, and those choices had consequences. "But you're allowed to grieve," she told me. "Grieve the son you thought you had. Grieve the family you wanted. That grief is valid." So I grieved. And slowly, very slowly, I started to heal. The community response was mixed. Some people apologized once the truth came out, told me they were sorry for believing the lies, for avoiding me, for judging me without knowing the facts. Others never acknowledged they'd been wrong, never apologized, just quietly pretended they'd never doubted me. I learned to be okay with both. You can't control other people's reactions. You can only control your own integrity. I reclaimed my house completely. Carol helped me redecorate. We painted over Brittany's gray walls, brought back the warm beige, hung up all my family photos again, put Frank's fishing trophies back in their place of honor. I even created a small corner in the guest room, a nursery corner, because there was still Madison to think about. Child Protective Services determined that Linda was the best placement for Madison. Linda, despite everything Brittany and Derek had put her through, stepped up, said Madison was innocent in all this. deserved family who loved her. I was granted supervised visitation rights. Every other Sunday, 2 hours. The first visit was awkward. Madison was 8 months old. She didn't remember me. Cried when I tried to hold her. My heart broke all over again. But I was patient. Brought soft toys. Sang gentle songs Frank used to sing to Derek. Read board books with bright pictures. Week after week, I showed up. By the 3rd month, Madison smiled when she saw me. Started reaching for me. By 6 months, she laughed at my silly faces. Linda and I became friends. Strange how shared trauma can create unexpected bonds. We'd both been victims of the same con artists. We understood each other in ways others couldn't. "You saved us both," Linda told me one Sunday while Madison played with blocks. "If you hadn't fought back, hadn't exposed them, they'd have destroyed us completely." Financially, I struggled for a while. The identity theft had wrecked my credit. Insurance covered some losses, but not all. I picked up extra hours at the library. They welcomed me back with open arms once the truth came out. Mr. Harrison helped me freeze my credit, set up fraud alerts, create systems to protect myself. The $50 monthly payments from Derek trickled in. Not much, but regular. A reminder that actions have consequences. I joined Amanda's support network officially. Started helping other elder abuse victims navigate the legal system. Shared my story at community centers, senior centers, church groups. If it can happen to me, I told audiences, it can happen to anyone. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Don't let anyone make you doubt your own reality. Some people thanked me with tears in their eyes. Said I'd given them courage to fight back. That made the pain worth something. 8 months after the arrests, I got a letter from Derek. He was in counseling, working through things. The letter was different from his earlier ones, less defensive, more honest. He wrote about how Brittany had love-bombed him, made him feel like the most important person in the world, then slowly isolated him from everyone else. Made him believe I was the problem, that I was trying to control him, keep him from his new family. He wrote about choosing greed over integrity, about convincing himself that taking the house was somehow helping his family, about ignoring every red flag because he didn't want to admit he'd made a mistake marrying Brittany. "I destroyed our relationship," he wrote. "I hurt you in ways I can never fix. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know, I understand now. I see what I did. And I'm so sorry." I read that letter 10 times, cried over it, then put it in a drawer and didn't respond for 3 weeks. Finally, I wrote back. 1 page. Simple. "Derek, I love you. I always will. You're my son. But trust is broken. It might never heal completely. If you want a relationship with me in the future, it will take years of consistency, of changed behavior, of proving through actions, not words, that you've grown. I'm willing to try, slowly, but I won't be a victim again, not even for you." He wrote back immediately, said he understood, said he'd do whatever it took. We started with letters, once a month, then phone calls, brief ones, surface-level conversations. "How's the weather? How's counseling?" Nothing deep, nothing that required vulnerability. After 6 months, I agreed to meet him for coffee. In a public place, with Carol there for support. Derek looked different, older, thinner, humbled. He apologized again, told me about what he was learning in therapy, about manipulation tactics, about how he'd been groomed. "I'm not making excuses," he said. "I made my own choices, but I understand now how I got there. And Mom, I'm so sorry. For everything." I listened, didn't commit to anything, told him time would tell if he meant it. We started meeting monthly, always in public, always with clear boundaries. Some visits went well, others were tense, but we kept showing up. Madison turned 1 year old. I helped Linda plan a small birthday party, baked cupcakes, bought too many presents, watched my granddaughter smash cake into her face and laughed until I cried. Linda leaned over and whispered, "She's lucky to have you, you know. So am I." Madison started calling me Gamma Not quite grandma, but close enough. Every Sunday she'd run to me when I arrived. Gamma, gamma. Those two syllables healed something deep inside me. We'd bake cookies together, her little hands helping me stir. Read stories curled up in the big armchair. Tend the garden, her tiny fingers learning to pat dirt around seedlings. These moments mattered more than the house, more than the money, more than any of it. I thought a lot about what I'd learned through all this, about boundaries and self-protection, about the difference between love and enabling, about standing up for yourself even when it costs everything. Standing up for yourself isn't cruel, it's necessary. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. Family who treat you like an enemy aren't acting like family. Your home is your sanctuary, and you have the right to protect it. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. I'd ignored so many red flags, convinced myself I was being paranoid or unkind, but my gut knew. I should have listened sooner. Documentation saves lives. Every photo I took, every record I kept, every piece of evidence I gathered made the difference between being believed and being dismissed as a crazy old woman. You're never too old to fight back, never too old to stand up, never too old to demand respect and justice. And compassion for others doesn't mean being a doormat. I could feel sorry for Derek's manipulation while still holding him accountable. Both things could be true. One evening, I sat on my front porch. The same porch where Derek and Brittany had camped out screaming at me 9 months earlier. Carol joined me with lemonade. We rocked in comfortable silence. Madison was in the yard, chasing bubbles Carol's grandkids were blowing. Her laughter filled the air like music. I thought about Frank, wished he were here to see this, to see how I'd protected what we built together, to meet his granddaughter. But somehow, I felt like he knew, like he was proud. You did good, Terry, Carol said, reading my mind like she always did. You fought back. You survived. You're still standing. We're still standing, I corrected. Couldn't have done it without you. My house stood behind me. Solid. Safe. Mine. The house Frank and I built with our own 2 hands. The house I'd fought to keep. It represented more than walls and a roof now. It represented dignity, self-respect, the refusal to be erased. I'd protected what mattered. Not just the physical house, but myself, my autonomy, my truth. And on the other side of betrayal, on the other side of fighting the hardest battle of my life, I'd found something unexpected. Strength I didn't know I had. A community of survivors who understood. A deeper appreciation for the people who stood by me. And a granddaughter who would grow up knowing her, Gamma never gave up. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most will hurt you deepest. That's a hard truth. But that doesn't mean you stop loving yourself. Protecting what you built isn't selfish. It's survival. And on the other side of betrayal, if you're brave enough to fight through it, you'll find yourself again. Stronger, wiser, still standing in the home you made with your own 2 hands. I'm 68 years old. I survived my husband's death, raised a son alone, built a career, maintained a home. And when everything I'd worked for was threatened, I fought back and won. That's not the ending I expected, but it's the ending I earned. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up to family who tried to take advantage of you? How did you find the courage to set boundaries when it hurt? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Maybe your experience can help someone else who's struggling right now. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think or feel something, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges and finding their strength. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's being told they're crazy for trusting their instincts. Someone who needs permission to fight back. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you never have to face what I faced. But if you do, I hope you remember that you're stronger than you think. That standing up for yourself is always the right choice. And that on the other side of the hardest battles, you'll find yourself again. May you always have the courage to protect what matters. May you always trust your instincts. And may you always remember that your home, your peace, and your dignity are worth fighting for. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, you're never too old, never too alone, and never too afraid to stand up and say, "This is my house, and I'm not going anywhere."